So, hello everyone, and welcome back to Satisfactory. So last time around we finished up the thermal propulsion rocket factory, which you can see in the top right. We have produced enough to finish the phase. So the next step then is nuclear pasta. So we are going to make some nuclear pasta. And this should actually be simpler. I mean, it takes a ridiculous amount of copper, but in terms of the actual production process, it's mostly easier than thermal propulsion rockets. So that's nice. So I think we are going to head up to the Dune Desert for this, because we need an insane amount of copper, and it's going to be easier to get it on site than to bring it all in via train, because that would be a lot of trains. So let's get the hypertube pointed that way and head on over. So over we go, and flying through the air. So just use a little bit of jetpack fuel to keep momentum going. Alright, so Dune Desert is going to have copper. It's also going to have iron and some other stuff probably, which is nice. And if we go all the way over to the eastern side, there's also going to be water in the ocean, I think. We can also possibly just grab it from that oasis, although we do need quite a lot of water, so I'm not sure if there will be enough there, but we can find that out. Alright, so let's get over here, and what I need is a radar, because I think coverage doesn't quite make it all the way. Like, we have some radar coverage in this area, but not all the way out to the edge. So I would like to get that, so let's just put that over here by this limestone mine. So that is organization, radar tower, and connect it up. And sure enough, ooh, there's deuterium there. That's helpful. That's one of the things that we need a relatively small amount of. Alright, so checking the Satisfactory Tools website. We need 100 limestone, which is easy enough. That's in the area. We need 2,416 copper ore, 80 iron ore, 16 deuterium, 1,878 water, 21 raw quartz, and 32 crude oil. So, if we look in this area, we could grab raw quartz from up there, but that's far enough away that it's going to be easier to just import it. So, raw quartz is going to be an import. Crude oil, nothing in the vicinity, that's going to be an import. Water we can get here. Deuterium we can get here. Iron we can get here. Copper we can get here. Limestone we can get here. And then we also have aluminum as another import. And nitrogen as another import. Alright, so we're like half and half on importing things versus just having them present to begin with. So let's figure out where exactly we want to go. So the limestone, there's technically some copper up there, but not much. Limestone and iron are all satisfied up there. Deuterium is there. Let's see. A lot of copper down here, although these look like normal nodes. Yes, those are normal nodes. That's pure node. Those two are pure nodes. So those two can get half of the copper all on their own. Those three... Can those three copper nodes just get all of it? Yeah, they should be able to. Because 780 times 3... There's 2340 actually, so we need a little bit more than those 3 copper nodes. So just like tack on that one and it'll be fine. Alright, and then we can add in that iron, that limestone, and just drag that caterium over. And then the water isn't terribly far away, so I guess we're gonna have to pump the water up over that ledge, but it would be, yeah, so I think this general location is gonna be easier, so let's head south to there and bring set our train tracks up there. We go. Now the copper, we're going to be using some of it in the what's it called? The regular production of the pressure conversion cube. I think it's, but yeah, pressure conversion cube. We're going to be using some of it for that, but obviously the vast majority is going to be for the copper powder. Alright, so it looks like we need to head sort of southwest from here. So I guess we were going to branch off this general area. Let's go back to jetpack, or back to hoverpack. So let's just set up an intersection like that. And tracks. Then we hook the tracks up like so, and then like so. There we go. Then the signals going into it are path signals, and you are a path signal. And then no, don't face that way. You're a path signal. You're a block signal. Alright, so now we just have to make sure that this is in Blueprint Auto Connect mode so that it snaps properly. And we head off this way. So off we go. Just building some rails. Okay, a little bit further in this direction. And then we're going to turn south. Probably around here is good. Yeah, let's turn south here. This should be good enough. So if I remember how to do the curves, it's something like that. And then obviously this whole thing needs to be filled in. And then we get this over here. And we pop the rails in. There we go. And now we just build our rails down south until we get to the approximate location we want to go to. So these go in one at a time. And keep going. So yeah, just a couple more, and then we are going to set up the train stations. There we go. That should be plenty. And then we can just put the train stations in here. So we need the foundation to go off this way. And then this has to go past this, takes a turn as sharp as we can get it to go, which apparently is all the way out here. And so you just go like that, and then you're going to go over this way. And keep going over that way. Alright, so now we can just set up our space for the train stations in this area, and we might have to expand it out even further east because of how insanely huge train stations are. But we'll see. Oh, and I need to remember to grab some wire preemptively because train stations use a huge amount of that, and we're not making a small number of train stations here. Alright, so that is all set up. Now we get the train station. So you go in like this. You're aligned a little bit back from that to give space for the curve. And we need to input aluminum and crude oil. And yeah, we need so much space. Okay, so that is all good. How's the wire supplies going? Not great. Alright, so we have aluminum, we have crude oil, we have quartz. Gonna make these very compact. And we need one more for nitrogen, which means expanding this out a little bit. And send the foundations back. Alright, so you go in there. So now we can just label these up. We have nuclear pasta nitrogen. We have nuclear pasta oil. Nuclear pasta oil. We have nuclear pasta quartz. There we go. And nuclear pasta aluminum. Now, all of these are relatively small numbers. The aluminum is the highest at like almost 400. The others are like less than 100 each. So we should not have any problems with them, aside from just building the stations themselves. So let's also get these guys all connected in. And you probably need to go like that. Alright, and now it is time for the freight platforms. So this is aluminum, so it's solid. Didn't make these in any particular order. So we're just going to pop them down wherever. 1, 2, 3. And then another 6 should be enough. There we go. 4 and 5. Alright. So then we have the quartz, which I need to make it a solid freight platform. 1, 2, 3. And then this needs to expand out a lot. So off you go. And we get all of those in. How many did we have here? We had 3 and 4 and 5. Alright, then we go over here. Let's fill in this little awkwardly spaced setup over there. And finish this block in. There we go. So that is all there. And then we have the fluid freights. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And one last batch of 5, which it looks like the wire might barely run out. 2, 3, 4, and we have to wait for 20 more wire before placing this in. There we go. Timing was pretty good on grabbing the wire out preemptively. Could have done it a bit earlier, obviously, but close enough. Alright, so now that all of this is set up, I need to put the other track in so that trains can actually get back here. So let's do that. So you go back to there. And then we just need this to be in here somewhere. So you can go along this way. Train setups. So many steps, and it's just impossible to blueprint because of how large it is. This would all be basically like 1 or 2 clicks if we had infinite-sized blueprints. Sadly, we do not. Alright, so then that connects back to there, and that goes in. Alright, now for the signals. So all of these get their own block signal, so that a train can sit in each one of these stations independently and not have problems. Then we go up front and we make these so that we have more block signals all set up. There we go. Alright, so those are all clear. Now I want at least that to be a block and that to be a block. And then I'm going to want more blocks just along the way on this railway. So they don't have to be constantly placed, but just a block every so often. Spaced large enough to not cause problems with trains being too long. And you aren't happy. Why are you upset? Oh, I see. These got placed backwards. Okay, sure. So those go out. And we get them in like that. Alright, just keep going. Realistically, like 1 or 2 more blocks will be good enough. So we get one there. And then let's have one here. Sort of in the center of that bit. And now we should be good to go. Trains should not have too much of a problem getting back here. So now we just have to set up the trains to actually visit these stations. So let's hop on over. And now we're here. So the aluminum is going to need a train. Transportation. Locomotive. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, now you can get set up. Aluminum ingot output and nuclear pasta aluminum. You're going to sit here until fully unloaded and then immediately leave. Alright. Wait. Nuclear pasta aluminum. Gotta give the train its name so that I can see what it's meant to be. And we need to set all of these freight platforms to unload. There we go. Done. And then we should just get all these platforms set to unload before we forget. Then we have the fluid freights. Really wish there was a way of making like an alternate default, because I placed unload platforms way more than I placed load platforms. But it's not that bad at the end of the day. So we have all that. Next up is the quartz. So you get a train with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars. And then you are nuclear pasta quartz. And you go to the quartz distributor and nuclear pasta quartz. You stay here until you're all cleared. And wait for 0 seconds after that. And save. Turn on self-driving. Off you go. Next we have oil. Locomotive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars. And you get named nuclear pasta oil. And you go to oil distributor and nuclear pasta oil. Stay here until you're fully loaded or unloaded. And off you go. Then we have one more for the nitrogen. Okay, I got in the train before I put any of the freight cars on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, so you are nuclear pasta nitrogen. And if we just search nitrogen, we have nitrogen source or Dune Desert nitrogen. I feel like one of these is meant to go down to power production. So I'm going to go nitrogen source to there. And I think that's going to be like on the other side of the planet, but it'll be fine. Do not need all that much nitrogen. So these trips are going to be very infrequent. There we go. And you should be all set up. Alright, mission accomplished. There we go. Next up, we just need to, I guess, now that we have these, let's go down and grab the resources from the ground. So let's head off somewhere where we won't be in the way and set up this blueprint, which can help us get power down pretty easily. So there we go. And it just keeps on descending. Now we need to get power onto this, which we can bring over here. And I guess pit stop there. And then onto that power line. So that's going to go, I mean, the trains are all going to go through that, but that's fine. So now we just bring this down. Do I see a hard drive that I haven't gotten? I must have grabbed that hard drive and just forgotten to remove it, right? There's no way I've left one that easily. Alright. We need to keep on bringing this blueprint down. Can I actually just put you on the hotbar? Hotbar has a free space, might as well use it. Alright, so that just keeps going down. And we bring the power. So this goes all the way down. And all the way down. Then we build the blueprint. And keep on going. Alright, a little bit more. I mean, we're basically there now, just a little bit more to get properly down to the ground, and that is going to be good enough, I think. So then we can bring a power line off onto that rock, I guess. Alright, and here we are. So, copper is right over here. Iron is there. There's more stuff around. So we need to make a platform. First, I am going to grab this hard drive, or dismantle it if I've already grabbed it. Yep, I already grabbed it. There we go. You are no longer all confusing. Alright, so we're going to make our platform somewhere here. We can actually grab water from over there, which is pretty convenient. It's nice and close. Alright, so let's just make the platform on top of that. And it doesn't have to line up perfectly with the ladder. So there we go. Then this can be the start. So this is the start of our new factory. Alright, so step one, get the resources here. So we need to grab our iron, which we literally only need 80 of. So that exists, it's powered on. And I assume this is going to be more than enough without any need to overclock. Yeah, way more. Is that a pure node? Yes, it is. Alright, so we can just bring this up to there. And that's actually apparently just a good height in general. Alright, iron, check. Next up, we need Caterium, which is going to be a lot more work because it's all the way up there. And we can grab these 2 copper nodes on our way back. Alright, so this goes all the way up north. And then a little bit off to the east as well. And we're just bringing a power line across. And that is one of the copper nodes that we need to grab. So let's pop a miner on it. And power that miner up. We're going to have to come back and do the rest of the work with it in a bit. Alright, then the next copper node is there. I see it. Alright, so now we just head on over this way. And here we are, so we can put a miner on this one, also pointing back the direction we came. Then we do not need that iron because we already have enough, so we just skip past it and go straight over to the Caterium. So there, and all the way up here. Gotta place the power line so we don't fall out of the sky. Alright, Caterium node spotted. So we just have to get down there and then bring it back up. Which is going to be a bit of a trip. There we go. A little bit further. And then I have some weird Nobelisk loaded. Still enough to destroy the rocks though. Alright, surface is too uneven. Well, it's a resource node, so it better not be. There we go, and that's going to give us, again, well more than the 16 Caterium a minute that we need. So yeah, I am using, what's it called? I am using one summer sloop machine in this setup because I realized that it would be possible to do so. Because we need 5 pressure conversion cubes, right? And a single assembler makes one of them. So what I realized is if you max overclock and summer sloop that assembler, you can get all of it from one assembler and just cut the amount of pressure conversion cubes you need down by half with just, what, 2 summer sloops? And I guess 3 power shards. So that is obviously an insanely good rate, so we're going to do that. And I think it's going to be the first time that I use summer sloops in actual, like, intentional production setups as opposed to just like a quick hack, get me some more production in the short term type of thing. So that'll be fun. So this belt just goes up this way, and it's gonna be hilariously slow. It's gonna be a Mark 1 belt because we need 16 and we're not in any particular rush to get this going. I mean, this is another factory which is going to take quite a long time to set up. I have to place, what is it, 161 refineries just for the copper. So we're going to be here a little bit, so there's no reason to rush it with faster belts than we strictly need. Alright, so here is the copper. You get summer sloop, or not summer sloop, you get that up to 780, which is the max we can handle. And now we just have to bring both of these belts along. That was the wrong button. I was grabbing copper ore off the belt when I meant to be expanding the belt. So we just have to bring these 2 belts along until pretty soon there'll be 3 belts. And eventually we will make it back to our foundation. Alright, so this then goes around this random pillar. And we just keep on going. There we go. Keep on going. There we go. Man, this sure is a little bit monotonous. Alright, so then we grab this one, and it is going to meet up with that. And alright, I guess we need to make sure that they don't clip. So that slow belt is going to go down a little bit before going back up to the current level. And on we go. Alright, so these 2 belts go forwards. Then we go down and we bring this belt. We are most of the way there at this point. Although dragging 3 belts now is slower than back when we were only doing 1. So off we go. I can see it. I can see it in the distance. So we are making progress. Making good, solid progress. We've sort of taken a bit of a detour away from where we built our power lines last time. So it might fall out of the sky. But hopefully we'll be getting closer to the next set now, so it won't happen. There we go. And along we go. Alright, we are just about here. So now we can just bring the lifts up. And we're going to need to get this foundation set up to be able to properly grab all of these. Also, apparently those 2 are a bit too close. Yeah, okay, so that's a little bit of a problem with the spacing of these belts. But we can get that sorted out nice and easy. So that is the Caterium. This is copper number 1. And this one is going to need a bit of a readjusting. So I need you to go up like that. And then up like that. And then on to there. Alright, so that is 2 belts of copper. And the third one is just this. Wait, did I forgot to overclock this one, didn't I? Let's head back and get that set up, because that's obviously very important. Alright, so we're over here. You get... No, we just barely need 2, so we might as well go overkill and make it 960 a minute. We can only use 780. Cannot wait until we have Mark 6 belts and we can do big speedy belts. It's gonna be crazy. But for now, this is fine. Alright, so we just have to go over here, get this last one, and then find one more copper elsewhere. So you can just go directly up to there and get your power shards. And get powered up. Alright, so now you are on the platform. And we have to get limestone. Limestone, limestone, limestone. There's some here, right? Just over this way. Here we go. Limestone. We need 102.5 of it. So this goes in and goes up. Bring the foundation over. And then you are there, and I imagine that no matter what type of limestone mine this is, it's a pure node. So we're going to have plenty. There you go. So you are all powered up, and we have everything except the Caterium, which is presumably very slowly making its way on over. And the water, which is going to be a whole other thing. So we've got this water bit down here. Oh, and we also need to grab one more copper, so just like that node would be fine. So we need slightly more than 3 full pipes of water, so we're going to bring 4 full pipes just to prevent any problems. Alright, that power line is going to get upgraded so that I can then bring it over this way. And over we go. So here's the water. There's also a bean in there, that's fun. It seems smaller than usual. Who knows? Anyways, 1, 2. Of course, this water is going to be annoying. 3, 4, 5. That's 1 pipe. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5. That's 2 pipes. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 3 pipes. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 4 full pipes, which will be more than the water that we need for this. So now let's just get all these powered up and connect them up into batches. So we have all that. Then we get all of these. And just drag a whole bunch of power lines everywhere. Eventually they'll all be working. I wish you could blueprint these, but you can't. Alright, then we should be able to finish it off with these power lines that I already have placed. Alright, do I see any red in here? I do not. Cool. Alright, now it's time for pipes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have to connect these up. That's 5 once we have these connected up. Alright, so that's 1 batch of 5. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So then we get these guys connected up. Alright, 2 batches of 5. Check. This is all just one giant row, so that's convenient. 1, 2, 3, 4. Place a bunch of junctions everywhere. And 5 connected up. And then we have these ones, which it would be helpful if the pipes snapped into the buildings as opposed to the water inches beneath the buildings. So that goes, and then that goes, and that's 4 batches of 5. Alright, now we just have to get these batches out. So that's 1, 2, and 3, and a 4. Alright, so now we just bring them around. Try to avoid the bean. He's really just decided to sit in like the world's most obnoxious location, as they tend to do. Alright, so now these all come over this way, and they meet up with that one, and now we have 4 pipelines, which all run over this way. Alright, so now we just have to get these going. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, it might be easier to make just like a pipeline, a blueprint with like a bunch of pipelines on it that you can just bring across terrain, rather than having to do it all manually all the time. That would be an idea. You could have it auto snap and everything. That would be real useful. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do it manually. Because it saves a small amount of time making a blueprint. There we go. Just keep on going forwards. And we're basically there anyways. It's not exactly a long trip. There we go. And a little bit more. Alright, and now we can bring these pipelines up here, and I imagine they're going to need pumps to get all the way up. Like that, and then they can just come forwards onto the platform, go all the way up to the max height above the platform, because that's where they might conceivably want to be. And then we'll run them forwards a little bit so we can just get indicators up here. Alright, and yeah, as expected, we need pumps on these. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's obviously more efficient ways of doing this, but there are not more convenient ways of doing this than just attaching everything up to some pumps and powering them up. Alright, so that is water. And you can see it's made it all the way up there. So now we just have to grab that one extra little bit of copper that we needed. So let's see here. Where are you? Sort of over this way. So let's bring power with us and get as much altitude as we can so we can find it. There it is. little bit further, and in we go. So you're going to be like 240, right? Yeah, so 780 times 3 plus 240 is 2,580, so that's a good significant chunk more than we need. No need to overclock this guy at all. We can just pop it on a Mark III belt and bring it back. So off we go. And just to bring this belt along. So we are making our way back. Should be quick, because we only have to do one belt as opposed to 4 pipes. So this goes all the way over this way. And to there-ish. And then up onto the platform. Alright, so that is that. And assuming I did everything right, I should see it making its way along the belt, and I do. Looks like the Caterium also showed up in the meantime. Alright, so that is everything either here or up there. And it looks like the trains for that have also appeared. Alright. So, the resources are now on a platform of sorts, so let's get started. So step 1 is literally 1 refinery of wet concrete. So let's get that done. Less than 1, in fact. So we just build out some space here. And we get a refinery. So we'd like to get all the refinery stuff done on this one level, because then we don't have to deal with water going up and down as much. So wet concrete with how much output? 68.3 repeating. There we go. So that is that. Then we need to bring the water over to that, which is going to be a whole thing. We're probably going to need to reroute these water pipes at some point, because I want to use all the rest of this space as well. So we're going to try to make this as out of the way as possible, but probably going to fail. We just have to bring this water all the way back and into this. So you have to be up and then go down. Alright, so now we pretty desperately need just power lines on this. So you can go there and get powered in from that and get upgraded. So now this is functional, and you get a smart splitter into a sink. It has to be slightly more than 60. So we have that. Alright, so that should deal with all of that. Limestone, check. Next up, let's do the iron, which is going into 3 refineries for pure iron recipe. And let's see if we can fit those in here. 1, 2, and 3. Yes, we can. So then we just pop a splitter in. And then we split to all those. You get to be pure iron ingots. And we need 150. So that's 50 each. And paste it to those 3. And put the iron in. Yeah, okay, this is not going to be the best organized that I've ever built, at least to start with. The weirdness should work itself out once I have the opportunity to go up to another floor. For now, we're just going to be a little bit awkward like this. There we go. That's all set up. So the total water between those two is 85 plus 40 something. Okay, that's actually... Okay, so we can have just one pipe of water do everything except for the pure copper. And then another pipe of water, and then another 3 pipes of water which do only the pure copper. And that works out. Alright, that's easy enough. So we just use this pipe for everything. And then it'll work. Alright, the water here is kind of weirdly low, considering how much overkill there should be. Why are you flow rate dropping while also not filling up? So it should be doing one or the other, right? Alright. Pump. The pump says it's sending like 200 a minute up. It also, though, says that there's 0 a minute there and 0 a minute anywhere past it. Okay. Although it might be going back to normal, but it doesn't look like it. No, okay. So I think what we do is let's take the pipe out. Let's take the pump out and just replace it and see if that helps. Alright, so now it seems to be going at 600 a minute, which is the number it should be. Alright, there we go. And that's going to be making its way down here pretty quickly. And obviously this is then going to be filling up, which it looks like it did actually stop completely and run out of water for a short amount of time. But we're back to doing well. So let's get this iron powered up. Okay, you're powered. You are apparently already connected. And you are already connected. And then we can attach you into that. Alright, so now we need... Now that these are powered on, they need a sink, which can go right there. And then we just have a merger, followed by a smart splitter. So this all goes in like that, and then goes forwards like that, and gets powered up. And that should be all good to go from there. So now these are just about all filled up with water, and iron is going fine as well. Alright. So that's iron, check. Limestone, check. Then we just need to do Caterium. And that's going to be pure Caterium in a singular refinery. So let's get some space over here. Yeah, this first floor is absolutely a mess. So this goes up a little bit, then over this way, and then back down. And then we get our refinery in, which is set to pure Caterium, and it is 8.063. There we go, so just slightly over 2/3 of its overall capacity. You go in like that. Then the water gets pumped into there, and it gets powered on. Alright, water is going well, and we get a sink for this. Yeah, like I said earlier, this is overall going to be a simpler factory than thermal propulsion rockets, though I wouldn't call it simple by any means. It's simpler, at least. So this goes there. Wait, no, we need a smart splitter in the way first. Like that. And then we power that on. Okay. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, you can go away. And you can get attached into that. Alright, so that tiny amount of Caterium is going to be used for fused quick wire in a bit. For now, though, we have quartz, which we need to do pure quartz, and crude oil, which is going to be doing diluted fuel. So let's go up and bring those two down to this level. So quartz and oil are going to come down to this level, hopefully over in that area. And then we are going to get them all set up. And I'm just sort of putting off the daunting task of the copper because it's a lot. And let's just get as much done as possible on this level. I do want to do the copper processing on this level, but if I can delay it for a little bit, that's fine too. Alright, so the quartz is a tiny amount, so we don't need to worry about buffers or anything. We can just get a nice clean setup off of a single belt, single Mark 1 belt even is fine. So that goes forwards, then all of these guys connect in, so that we definitely get our quartz from whichever station it is sitting in. And then you go down and yeah, so you go down through the bottom of the floor, and that is that. So then we have our oil, which is going to be similar but oil flavored. So it has fluids and pipes and stuff instead of belts, but is basically the same idea. We need a very small amount of it, and we're just going to get all of this hooked up. And we can even use Mark 1 pipes because it simply does not matter. There we go, and then we get a floor hole, and the pipe goes into the floor hole. Alright, so that is that. I guess I might as well set up the system for nitrogen gas and aluminum ingots while I'm here. Although I'm not going to actually bring them anywhere just yet, because I don't know how far down they're going to need to go. It's almost certainly not going to be all the way because I don't need them until later in the process. Alright, so this then gets connected up. And let's do aluminum as well, which is going to need faster belts, but not ultimately any different, because it's still like half of a belt, just half of a Mark 5 belt instead of half of a Mark 1. So let's get that all in. And put the mergers. There we go. And there we go. Now we just connect all of this up. And there we go. And we can give it a floor hole to go into as well. This one I need to connect across, and that's that. Alright, so now we just drop below here. And grab you. Bring the belt out a little bit. Grab you. Bring the pipe over to here, because it's going to need to go over to here. Alright, so we need to drag a belt and a pipe, which is a mildly annoying combination of things. So this goes over this way, and we just have to get it all the way over to the wall that we have. There we go, and let's bring the pipe over as well. Alright, so this goes and turns. And here we are. So the pipe just goes straight down the wall. And the belt is going to just take a lift down. And that's that. Then the pipe goes down, and we can go down with it. There we go. So these just have to make their way. And now let's grab the belt again. Don't want to leave it too far behind. And it can get a bit ahead of us because of how dragging belts works as opposed to dragging pipes. So this then comes the rest of the way. And now we are back down here. And where's that belt up here. There you are. Alright. So then that makes it down. As does this. And this has crude oil in it. This will eventually have quartz on it. And now we can set them up. So for the quartz, we need a refinery. Just one. Because the numbers continue to be incredibly small on this. So you go to there. Then we grab a pipeline junction and into there. So this is set to pure quartz. And how much do we need? 16.667. There we go. So then we can power that one up. We're going to need to make another power pole soon. That central one is sort of being overused. So this has all the water it needs, and then it's just waiting on the quartz. So let's get its sink back there. And its smart splitter. Make sure it's facing the right way, obviously. And that goes across. I don't know what I need 16.667 quartz for. I'm making, let's see, insulated crystal oscillators for the radio control units, for the pressure conversion cubes. Alright, that makes sense. Okay, so, anyways, back to what we're actually doing in the moment. We have pure quartz crystal set up. Next up is oil refinery stuff. So we need slightly more than one refinery of heavy oil residue into slightly more than half a refinery of residual rubber and slightly less than one refinery of diluted fuel. Okay, let's just like make this more compact. So if I put this refinery in like there, and you are heavy oil residue alt, then I'm just going to overclock you a little bit to be 43.249. There we go. And that way we can just have a more simple setup with one single machine as opposed to adding a second machine in. And this entire system is a mess. I really am not happy with floor 1 of this factory. But it'll be done soon, hopefully. Alright, so that is heavy oil residue. Then we need a blender and another refinery. So let's get those in. We have blender and we have refinery. So the blender is doing diluted fuel stuff. So it gets, if I can scroll correctly, it gets this. If the pipe had been in noodle mode for ages, that's why. Alright, so this goes along here and into that. So that is heavy oil residue, check. And then it also needs water, which we can just yoink off of this right over to there. Okay, actually though, I think I want the water pipe to go up a little bit and then down. Also, did I not power this on? Yes, I did not power that on. Alright, so let's give you a power line. Upgrade you to Mark III and connect it up. So now this is powered, and also we have a new power line. Alright, so the blender is doing that. Then we also have residual rubber over here at 10.812. 10.812. So you then get powered on and connected in to this belt, which goes to there, and also the water pipe like that. Alright, and then the diluted fuel needs to be making math. Alright, so it's 40.713 plus 45.784, and it should be 86.5-ish%, and it is. Alright. 43.246, but this is 43.249, so this is actually off slightly. Let's just set this at 86.5%. It's going to be slightly more, but it should be, let's see. What's the exact thing? So we need 43.249 inputs. So 43.249 over 50 times 100. There we go. So now that is set up to the precise value. Not that it makes a huge difference, but should help a little bit. So then that makes rubber, which we can sink. That makes fuel, which we can't. And the fuel will be dealt with on the next floor up when we deal with the rubber and plastic production. Alright, so then this just goes into the sink, and actually we just have the splitter there. There we go. Alright, so that is oil done with its water needs. Let's see, is there anything else that we need water for? We've done diluted fuel, we've done pure quartz crystal, we've done residual rubber, we've done pure deuterium, we've done pure iron, we've done wet concrete, so the only thing needing water left is pure copper ingots. Alright. I guess that will be our next goal then. Did I attach that sink up to power? I did not. Fix that. You go back to there. Alright, so we are going to be doing that in this area over here, and I'm going to make a blueprint for it because 161 refineries is no joke. So let's make a nice big area, big enough to put a blueprint machine on. There we go. Blueprint Designer Mark II. And our priority is going to be fitting as many refineries in this as possible. So, let's get this going. That is going to be enough space. This has only one output, so we can shift it slightly over to that way. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And pure copper ingots. Alright, so actually, we can do this with... I've done this before, haven't I? Please say that I've done this before. Pure copper, I would almost certainly have called it. 60 copper, 40 water to 150 copper ingots. Yeah, okay, let's load this blueprint up. Make sure that it is all functional. We've got that side. We have this side using Mark 5 belts. The output belts are all good. Yeah, okay, so I can just use this blueprint. That's convenient. Alright, so we can clear that. And how many of these am I going to need? 161.071 divided by 4. I'm going to need 41 blueprints. And the last one will be underclocked, obviously. Alright, well, nothing to do but get started. Actually, 780 divided by 60. Is that divisible? 13. So I'm going to have rows of 13 blueprints, I guess. And go down here, find the blueprint, and we want our rows to be like this, so that the input is going from here over to there, and the output's going from here over to here. That should be the best way. Now our output rows are going to have to be better than this. Also, we left a dismantle crate. That's mildly annoying. But let's start placing. And then see how much of this dismantle crate we can grab. None of it, but it's nothing significant anyways. Alright, so we have that. And I guess we should organize our copper belts. So that's the small one, which we want to ignore. And then we need to grab these ones and bring them over. So you go up, you go around and up, and forwards. And over, and over. And we just need to get these over in the correct general vicinity. So here we go. These are now all three of those together. And then this last slow one can also be over here-ish. Alright, so let's start by setting up each of the rows individually. And then, like, each of the starting sides of the rows, that is. The fact that this is just, like, in an inconvenient spot in my blueprint list is definitely annoying. So we can't have this small amount of space because we need to bring out at least 2 belts of copper from each of these. Which, I mean, we can just send it up a floor, which is not a problem. So I guess we do something like that. And then let's get the power connected in as well. There, so you can connect directly into that. And now we can hover around in this area. Alright, let's get rid of some of these poison pillars. Alright, these pulse obelisks or whatever are super weird. I don't exactly know what they do differently from regular obelisks, but they sure are cool. So we need 4 rows to start, and one of those is going to be shorter than the others. Okay, as far as water goes, this is 10 per minute each, and there's 4 times 13, so 40 times 13 is 520. So annoyingly not quite a full pipe, but that's fine, we can work around that. So let's just put all this foundation in. So because these aren't quite full pipes, actually it's fine, I think. Well, no, we'll have to take the outputs from each of these and loop them back into the 4th. That's what we can do. That should be pretty simple. Alright, I need to just get this on a hotbar so that I don't have to keep doing this every single time. Pure copper, you are now number 9. Congratulations. Alright, so we leave a good chunk of space for you. And then one more. Now this is the extra short one. So, gosh, if I could not fall out of the sky, that would be great. So we bring power over to there, and that should give us the lift over in this area that we need. So this is the extra short one, but I don't think that's necessary to use. I think we have enough space here if we just squeeze it in like this, which would be awkward, except this isn't a full row, so it should be okay. Alright, so we have that. Now we hook the copper belts in. So this one will go into there. This one, let's get all these lined up and straight with each other for organization purposes. So then this one goes all the way out here and into there, and then this one also goes all the way out here and then goes even further. Further out to there, and then into that one. And then this one comes all the way out this way. And into this last one, which it'll curve in so that it doesn't hit those rocks. Alright, so that is copper supplied. And I guess we can get those ones powered on as well. Not that it makes much of a difference. Alright, so copper is supplied to the machines. Next stop, we have to get the water in. So this water needs to, like, duck down under that pipe, because of course that's the way I decided to do it. And actually, I'm just gonna... I said it was likely I would redo the water, and I have. So that goes to that one instead, which shouldn't make any difference because these are all full pipes. But now these pipes can be more normal. So these go forwards. And then this one, just... No, not that. Please snap into the pipe. There we go. These things, they always snap into the pipes when you don't want them to, and they never snap into the pipes when you do want them to. Alright, so then this goes across and into there. And then this one goes across and into there. And then this is one which will be fed from the other direction once we figure out what exactly it's doing. Alright, so these rows are currently 1 blueprint long, and they need to be like 13 blueprints long. So let's get that extra space for them. And we're going to finish the first row so that we know how long all the rest of them have to be. So you are blueprint auto connect mode. And you just go in like that. And I wonder if we will run out of anything important for this. Apparently power range is going to be a continual problem. Alright, so let's get all of those connected up. So we are now up to 3, and we're already having to go even further. This is going to be a huge amount of space, as expected, of 161. 161 refineries. Is quite a lot of refineries, as it turns out. But nothing to do but just keep placing. So now we're up to, I believe, 5. And we just need to connect power along. Alright, this is taking up way more space than I thought it would even. So we're just going to have to keep on expanding the foundation, putting machines in, powering them up, and just rinse and repeat until we are done. We are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we're less than half. That is 6. That is the number after 6, which I'm not going to say because of the meme. There we go. Power goes forwards. I left another dismantle crate somewhere. Can I just get some of this random unnecessary junk out of my inventory? Alright, I don't need 100 screws. I don't need 7 of those or 7 of those. I'm trying to take out things that probably won't just show back up in my inventory in 5 minutes, which is not super easy. Alright, I lost track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, okay, cool. So we just have to keep on going. We just have to keep on going. That is 8. That is 9. And bring the power forwards. So just 2 more batches of that, and then we will have 1 row done. And that's not to mention, of course, getting the stuff actually out. Alright, so the water pipes are theoretically connected up to here, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Alright, I believe that is 11. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, that is 11. So let's bring the power forward so that we can fly again and do one more of these. And then we will be a quarter of the way done with the copper refining. And then most of this is going to have to go into another giant stage for the powder production. So that is 12. That is 13. Alright, and bring the power forwards. There we go. And that last little extra bit. Alright, so it looks like some of this is going. I see some green back here. I imagine the yellow in front of that is going to be because it's backlogged and not because there's some other problem. The water is going, which is definitely a good sign. So yeah, these are all saturated with copper. And this isn't going to be quite running as fast as it could be because of all these machines which are off, but actually they haven't saturated yet with overflow, so it will be pretty close. Alright, so that is that. And I want to let this chill for a bit so that the water pipes can get all the way down, because that is going to be a major source of headache. So, next step is actually we need to figure out the outputs of this. So these are 50, these are 150 each, right? 37.5 times 4 is 150. So each of these batches is 150. Which means 780 divided by 150 is 5.2. So 5.2 of these batches, which we can't quite do, so we're just going to get 5. 150 times 5 is 750. So we're going to have a couple belts of 750, and then so we're going to have 2 belts of 750, and then 1 belt of, I guess, the excess of all that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we go to here, and then just mark that, I guess. So you are disconnected, and this is going to be a second thing. So we're going to put in the sink here, and I think, are we going to be able to turn it on just yet? I think we probably shouldn't turn the sink on at the moment. Alright, so that goes in. Actually, let's just get the smart splitter. And straight mode there. And an awesome sink directly off of it. There. So we have that. And this first chunk is going to be 750, I think. Alright, so then we need to get a sink in here, which is going to be easier said than done because of these annoying belts here. And then the other ones don't have the space for this to be on their row, so they're going to have to go back. Well, they're going to have to go up a row, I guess, and be sunk on the next floor up. Yeah, okay, so that goes around like that. And I guess if this is all going to be sunk on the next floor up, I might as well just do that for these ones as well. Yeah, let's do that. So we're gonna make another floor, and so these sinks don't need to exist. So this floor goes up. And is that high enough? I think I remember 8 being the exact height necessary. Yes. So that goes up to there. That can stack up over the refineries. Then that goes in there. And we get a full hole there. So then this comes down to ground level and in. Okay. Then up here we can just build in a sink, or we could bring them all together to be organized and then put the sink in afterwards. Either one would work. Let's just do the sinks locally. It'll be easier for now because we do have a lot more building to do. I don't want to spend too long on this. Alright, so that is in. And then we can head over and do the same thing over here. So we go down here. The only reason I'm doing this now instead of building more refineries is just to confirm that it all works, which it definitely should. And figure out, if we do need more space or something, it's better to figure that out now than once we have another 100 refineries built. So this goes up here and into there. So then we get that connected up. And then we put all of these foundations in. And some extras over there. So then this goes up like that. And the sink lines up, and the splitter is in between. And there we go. Alright, so that is one batch of 750. This is another batch which we have to count out. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that is just past this refinery here. And we cut that out. And so this last batch should be less than that, which is good because it has to carry the extras from those. So this is 150, 300, 450. Yeah, so that's fine. And then we just bring this floor all the way over here to deal with it. Alright, so this comes all the way down. All the way down to here. And that's the cut that I made there. So we just go a little bit further. And now this goes up. You go up to there. And then you go down to there. Alright, then this gets its output. And then we get some space. And an awesome sink. Alright, so that is all set up. And now, at this point, it looks like everything is yellow from not enough output space. So now we can power on these sinks, get these guys running properly, and hope that that works out. It'll take a little bit to stabilize, and then it'll be all running. Alright, so the sinks are all attached up to each other. Now they're attached up to that. And we're good. Alright, now we just need to... we need to get all the rest of this. So I'm going to do the foundations first. Just to get that out of the way. And I wish that there were a faster way of doing it than having to do each of these 50 billion rows manually. Maybe this would call for just a foundation blueprint that I just smack down like as giant 10 by 10 squares. That would be a lot faster for this. Who knows? Let's do that. So let's get the space first. Is that going to be enough space? Yes. Alright, no, these spaces are only going to be 5 by 5 squares, so it'll still be, what, like 2.5 times faster in terms of number of placements. So yeah, let's get this in, and then we're probably going to need to do some extra weird stuff in order to get it to work, but that's fine. Alright, so you are 5 by 5 foundation. Concrete, clear, close, and then we can go on to this and just make that in the hotbar so that I can place it around a lot. And now we just need to get placing these. And yeah, this is much better. There we go. So now we can just crank these out 5 rows at a time with single clicks instead of having to click and drag. It's just much better. Now this might not, and it probably won't, line up perfectly to the other side. Oh wait, does it actually? It does. That's beautiful. Alright. That was a happy accident, I guess because I only ever dragged in batches of 10. Alright, yeah, this is fast enough that we're looking like we might run out of concrete, which is pretty much a good problem to have, because it means that we're placing that quickly. Alright, so we just get a couple more placements. Alright, now we're out of concrete for now. So let's get to placing these, because these are the actual refineries themselves are actually going to need probably to wait on dimensional storage stuff, and gotta get that going quickly. So we can just pop these down until we run out of something, possibly motors. Although the motors are reloading very quickly, so it's hard to say. And we just place... Okay, yeah, so it's steel pipes, which we eventually run out of. That's fine. So then we can go back and fill in the power line connections. There we go. Just bring these along. And that one got all messed up for some reason. There we go. So now those are all built. We can go back to placing foundations. We have a good solid stockpile of these again. We're unfortunately out of power radius, so we have to walk around the ground like a peasant. And then this last bit doesn't line up quite right. So we are going to need to do this manually, I think. There we go. Alright, now we have all that. Alright, so we ran out of steel pipes. How are those going? Not incredible, but could be worse. Could be worse. And we don't have that many rows of this to do. I mean, we have a lot, but not, like, infinite. Like this, with this row done, we'll be more than halfway through. And it looks like we might have the pipes to finish it. Or at least the production speed that it's not going to be that much longer. Alright, so we're going to be one placement short once we get this one in. Alright, so that is set up. And now we just get power line connections across, because those are still needed. And there we go. And with that one, they'll all be connected up. All right. So that is that. And by this point, we should have that one remaining chunk of steel plates done. So we can get that one in. And we are all good. Alright, so that's 2 rows out of 3, which is pretty good. Now let's get our 5x5 foundation blueprint back in. And go back to placing these while we wait for steel pipes to regenerate. And of course, we're going to have to walk around the ground while we do this. Alright, go back, and this will be the last row of this, which is pretty neat. Alright. This is going almost there. Should have barely enough concrete to finish. Yep, barely enough concrete to make it the rest of the way, and that's all the concrete placement that we need to do for this. This rock is a problem. I didn't realize that that was there. We're gonna have to just skip that one, I guess, when we get around to placing that. Alright, steel pipes are recovering. We're going to need a lot of them in order to do this next bit. So, I guess while we wait for that, we can go back here and set up our sinks. So, the first sink is obviously this one. And we can do that here. You go up and into there. And that. Let's grab steel pipes out so that we don't run out. We need to have the space in the dimensional storage to keep all the extra steel pipes as they get loaded up. Alright, so that goes. The awesome sink is in. The smart splitter is in. And now we have our belt. There we go. And I might as well do this for all of them just at once. That's going to be... I mean, all of them are going to need them. So let's just bring the foundation out. Then you get this row. Alright, that goes up. Comes down on this side. And goes into there. Then we get the extra space for the sinks. We get the splitter. And we get the sink itself. So, that's that. Steel pipes. Possibly at the point where we have enough to go. I'm gonna just keep working on this though. So we can put in one more of these sinks on this level. So we get a floor hole there, which is gonna go down and take the input. There we go. So now this goes all the way up to there. And we get our space to build the sink. And the sink goes in. And across. Alright. So that is all of that in. Right, this last one hasn't been hooked up to water yet, which is why it's not getting any. Alright, now, if we check steel pipes, now we should be ready to go. So let's get this next row in. And that is those. Get you aligned. And start placing. So these just all go in, one after the other. There we go. See how many we can get before we run out of something. Looks like we might be running low on copper sheets. There we go. And yeah, okay, so now we are low on copper sheets. But it's filling up quickly, so it should be fine. We have just one more placement on this row. There we go. We also burned through like all of our pipes doing that, which is fine. We don't need that much more. We need not a full row. In fact, hardly anything of a row remaining, I think. Okay, so this is all set up. Now we need to attach the power lines so that the water can actually go in to the machines. And we're just gonna run down here, bringing power lines across. And off we go. Now the weird thing is that all of these are going to turn on all at once, because that's just how this is going to work, which might do weird things to the water supply, but it should be fine. There we go. Actually, speaking of things turning on all at once, power supply, still fine. Still not anything that I need to worry about anytime soon, which is pretty great. So the water supply is 600, and it could need as much as 540. So that is close, but it's going to take a while to get all saturated. But the fact that these first couple ones are not active because they've already finished will help a lot. Alright, so that is going, and then we're going to have plenty of steel pipes, and the copper sheets were regenerating fast enough to not be a serious issue. So we should have enough resources to go and build the last partial row. And then the question is just going to be, how exactly do we manage getting that set up? So each of these rows is 13 times 4, which is 52. Multiply that by 3 is 156. And our final total that we need is 161. So yeah, this last row is literally just like the one set of machines we already have for it, which is 4, brings us up to 160, plus literally 2 more machines, so just another blueprint. And then we just have to get water back to them somehow. So let's get this last blueprint in, and you're going to be on default mode because weird things are going to happen otherwise. Just have you rotated correctly. Need to dodge around that rock, so move you over a little bit and place you in. Alright, so then the pipes connect across, and the conveyor belts go up and over the rock, and then down and in. Alright, so then we get the power connected across so that these are going. And now we just need to deal with the water situation. Speaking of which, are these guys all good? Yeah, so this is filling up fast. So we want to let the water fill up because it doesn't run at full capacity otherwise, and it kind of needs to be running at full capacity for this. And then the last thing we need to do is annoyingly go all the way down over this way and grab these 3 pipes, connect them up, because we have 1800 water here, 3 pipes of 600, and we need 1610 water, which means if we just grab the output sides of these pipes, then we can just bring them all together and combine up to finish off that last little mini row, and probably have plenty to spare. We might not even need to merge them all up together like this. We might be able to do it with just one of the 3, but that could also just cause weird shenanigans where the ratios aren't quite the same on everything. Alright, so let's get you 3 connected in like that, and then what I need to have is very important, is valves pointing this way, so that we don't have weird stuff with water flowing back from one thing into the other. We just have the water go forwards. So then this pipe goes back down this way, and it goes quite the long distance. Goes quite the long distance, but eventually it makes it back and powers on those couple extra machines. Alright, so this goes all the way down here. And we're going to have to take a turn to the right a little bit. I am doing this relatively close in because I don't want to just completely waste a ton of space. Which, I don't know, I don't think will be used for anything, but you never know. Alright, now at this point, you can do straight mode actually. Pipes have that too. And then that goes up. And now the water has to flow across to that, which it'll do eventually. And then these pipes will get filled, and these machines can then get started. So yeah, this is going at, 30, 40 a minute, but it looks like it's speeding up, which makes sense because none of these guys are running at the moment. So this should all saturate eventually once this pipe gets filled. Yeah, so that pipe gets filled, and then there's enough water to go up into all of these guys. And that'll get those pumps filled, and that will be that. So we're still waiting on some fluctuation stuff for this to go. Currently, that is rock bottom, but it's going up again and back down. Fluids in non-full pipes. How strange you can act at times. Well, it'll get there eventually. It's just got a lot of stuff to fill. So that one's at 100%, that one's going at 100%, that one's technically going at 100%. And then eventually this will also backlog and make everything so much easier. And speaking of which, I need to get the rest of the sinks in, because I got the front row in, but there's 2 more rows of sinks left to do. So we have this row of sinks here. So this gets cut off here. And we go there. And then we take this one out. Alright, so let's get those conveyor poles out of the way as well. And then we just need bring this foundation across and put the sinks in. So that goes across like that. This comes on up and in like that and back down. Then we get this one in, which goes up to there and up to the proper speed and back down. Alright, so that is those guys set up. And now we have to get the foundations in. So we can just drag this across a couple times. And there we go. Then we get these lifts. Go there and there. The smart splitters go just immediately out of the lifts. And the sink just goes immediately out of the smart splitter. There we go. And now we just connect them up with belts. Like that. Alright, so that's all set up. This last bit looks like it's still going. I don't want to turn all this stuff on while this water is still messing about. But it looks like it might have gotten all sorted at this point. Is this last one filled? Yes, the last one is filled. So those are all good to go. Alright, so we have that, we have that. So let's get this row of sinks powered up so that they can start running, and then go back, do this last row of sinks, then double back and get the front row powered, because I didn't want to do that at the moment, but now I do. Alright, so we have this, which is in front of this refinery here. So we pop that out, and get rid of the power pole and everything. And then we pop this one out. Get rid of all that stuff. Alright, that's done. Now we take the foundation, run you across, and then we can just drop down and start attaching these guys in. So you go up to there, and then back down. You go up to there, like that, and back down. Alright, so those guys are up here, and now we put the foundations in and do the rest of the steps. So we get that is all set up. Lifts next, there and there. And then smart splitters there and there. And sinks, which I guess we left a little bit of space on these ones, which is fine. Alright, and then we just connect the belts across, power the sinks up. And where's the power line? Here's one. So that goes there, gets those two going. That one is already going. Alright, so now we have those ones going, we have these ones going. We have one more row to get started up, which is this front one. So we are up here now, and we get you, and you are going to need to be a faster power pole to hold all of this. And back down there. Now all of them are going. And that should, in theory, be that. Now where's this dismantle crate that's been bugging me this entire time? Yoink, grab some of those. And alright, so this should be slowly turning on. It'll take a little bit because the belts are only 30 a minute faster than the theoretical production, which could cause problems, obviously. Alright, so something wacky is going on here. These ones back here aren't connected in. There, let's get them going. There we go. Now this is all good, and we'll be slowly emptying out over time. Alright, I think that is that. So we just want to wait and see, because unfortunately these did have to buffer because of the way I did things. I could have had the copper not go in at first. And actually, I think just for aesthetic purposes, let's let's temporarily chop copper input so that we can have belts which are only doing the necessary amount. This last one, we don't need to do that because it's going to be weird numbers anyways, because it's less than a full thing. Alright, so we just have that. So now, these should slowly drain of copper bit by bit. And that should result in these belts here being, you know, just only the exact amount of copper necessary on them. It'll take a bit for that to happen, especially I think down here at this edge where things are going to be running less quickly. Although the occasional sinks will actually help prevent that from becoming too much of a problem, but like, yeah, this one, the last one right before the sink, is not running at all. Not even a little bit. And so this, turning this off will also potentially help with that draining faster. Alright, let's check over here. So the oil situation is obviously all going to be messed up. Well, first of all, I never even connected this up, or that, for that matter. So those need to be powered, but the fuel has nowhere to go, so it's going to wind up being yellow anyways until we get the rubber system in next stream. This iron stuff is going. The deuterium looks like it's going. Alright, so now we just have to wait for the copper to get itself sorted. And theoretically, like, these ones up here in the front should be draining a lot faster, right? So this one is actually just outputting its full production speed because it has enough room on the belt to do that. So that's handy. All the rest of these, it's going to take absolutely ages for this to get to the point where I want it to be. Like, I only need these to run like a couple cycles, but it's just not going to happen at any reasonable rate. Although they are going a cycle now. So that's something at least. So there we go. We just need like 1 or 2 more cycles for these to not have anything on the belts. And a couple cycles past that to have a little bit of internal buffer free. So yeah, this copper thing is sort of the main thing of this factory, so I'm trying to make sure to get it as elegant as possible. So I normally might not care about this if this were just one part of a larger factory, but if it's nuclear pasta and this is the copper, it's basically 80% of the work, at least in terms of resources. Alright, so this is going well. And it does look like we are at a point where there's hardly anything on the belts. There is on this one, but it's going pretty quick. Yeah, so now there's nothing immediately on the belt at the moment. But we need to wait a little bit longer for internal buffers to drain. Because currently, if we were to put more in, with this running at 28%, it would just immediately empty out again, and this would all fill up, and we would have served no purpose by doing this. But if we can get all of these internal buffers gone, then when we put the copper back in, it'll get started for real. Alright, let's also, while we're at it, might as well put throughput monitors on all of these. Currently, obviously, it's just going to show 780 because there's internal buffers that need to be emptied. But if it doesn't, then we'll know something's badly wrong. Also, that last one is going to be different, of course, because it's much smaller. And then in the long term, once this is functioning properly, and we can just confirm that these show 750 and 450 respectively. 450 for the final row back there, 750 for the first two. And we want to have that before the sync, so that even when we are using the copper and it's not just getting sunk, and so 0 would be going to the sink, then we can still get use out of the throughput monitor's verification. There we go. And there we go. Now I imagine that, yeah, these last ones are starting to hit some slight output issues, maybe? No, it was just showing 300 briefly for who knows why. But these ones, I mean, they're all going to be producing at 100%, so they will empty out faster than the first two batches where we still have significant buffers. And these are just going to be going... Alright, this is showing 750. Really, it's 780 with the occasional gap. And here we have, yeah, I mean, this is... It looks just about right, I think. Is that going on over here, too? No, this is still having issues. Right, I don't know why that is. These first two batches should be the same size, so and they should have both been fully buffered, so they should be in exactly the same state. Okay, the first couple in this row, yeah, except for that one weirdly, which lasted a little bit longer, but the first couple in this row are now out of copper, not producing anything. So that's good. That is a sign that this is getting there. And it looks like the same thing is happening here. So now we just have to do a little bit more waiting on these guys. And at this point, it might just be the relatively slow output belts which is causing them to be delayed. Because the output belts here are like only, what, 12.5, 22.5 per minute slower than what the actual output is. So this would take like 2-ish minutes to get out onto the belts, regardless of how fast it was actually being, like, how much space there was. So with that in mind, this is basically there. Alright, can I clear the inventory again because we are having constant space problems. What can I get rid of? Heavy modular frames, rods, iron plates. I don't need all of these reinforced iron plates. I'm probably going to need a decent chunk of them, but let's just keep like one row. There we go. I never got around to fixing that problem back at the space elevator. My reinforced iron plates are, I believe, still connected up via a slow belt. Alright, we could just yoink the copper off the belt and then just have it go faster because of that. But that would require, like, getting all of these rows and probably the stuff going on back there too, which I don't really want to mess with. And it's almost there anyways. I mean, they're still somehow producing, which is impressive how long that's lasted. But even then, the output buffers are going down, and we should be in the clear. Just a couple more cycles of this. So what, another minute? Yeah, another minute, and then this one will be all cleared out. This one should be a little bit ahead. It's somehow a little bit behind. Who knows how that happens, but all the way down there, I'd imagine similar things are happening. We don't see anything on those belts, so it might be that that was somehow ahead of the curve. Alright, so we have one cycle left, and then that'll be all the copper that this can make. And then we can reattach it, and it'll all be good to go. Alright, so that is the last little chunk. And that is going down. Alright. Yeah, so we should be all cleared out now. Yeah, so now there is no copper ingots on any of the belts. We can run back here and reattach things up. So there you go. And there you go. And there. And then this one is just doing its own thing. Alright. So copper has been resupplied, and it should all hit pretty much simultaneously. I mean, this is a long distance even for Mark V belts, so there's gonna be a bit of a delay, but not too much. Alright, so yeah, these ones are already going. And everything except the ones which have to take the longest trip, I guess. Yeah, so that trip is marginally longer than that trip, it looks like. And I would imagine that all the way down the line, just about in the same position. Yeah, so these are now all turning green. And we have copper ingots going out. So this should be very, very close to full capacity. So we should be looking at like 750 on these already. So yeah, it's taking its time to climb up. And alright, so now that's at 780. And there should be the occasional drop which causes it to balance out to 750. There we go. That is expected. Although it might not have been enough. Hard to say. But it's going. And that is that. Alright. So now this whole giant copper setup is going. Now how much copper... Alright, we need 40.163 copper to go to fused quick wire, and 6,000 copper to go to 20 constructors of copper powder. So 20 constructors, not actually all that much. And that will give us 1,000 copper powder, which will be 2 belts. So yeah, I think we're going to do that just so that the amount of copper we have to move around is smaller. I think the copper powder will be our next goal, even though obviously that goes into the final product, which we simply cannot do anything with for a while. It's easier to move 2 belts of copper powder than, what, 6-ish belts of copper ingots. So aside from that, then we have a whole bunch of weird stuff to do with relatively low numbers of machines pretty much across the way to get 2 pressure conversion cubes, and then we just make our nuclear pasta and call it a day. Alright, so that's pretty cool. So let's just give these a check. You are showing 740 something. You're showing 750 something. You're showing 730. So that's probably correct. Obviously it's not exactly correct, but I did just boot it up just now. The throughput monitor might be still calculating. The actual production might not be quite there yet, or it looks like it's one of those things where it has the long periods of 780 with the occasional gap, which brings it down. So I think it's going to be one of those things where either 2 or 3 gaps are visible in the monitor, and depending on that, it's either going to be an overestimate or an underestimate, because in theory there should be 2.5 gaps at all times, but it doesn't quite work that way. So yeah, we have that. You're going, actually your dips look different from your dips. Those ones are much cleaner than those ones. I don't know what that's about. Probably nothing. And then these ones are also kind of janky and weird. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? And then this one is doing its own thing, of course. But anyways, I think this is a good stopping point for today. So we've done all of just the step 1 raw resource refining. So the only fluids left are the fuel for the rubber and plastic, and the nitrogen gas for the fused frames. And the nitrogen gas just goes directly into the fused frames, right? Yeah, so that's going to be a couple steps away. The fuel we just have to make recycled rubber and recycled plastic with, and of course, as usual, we need a little bit of both. And then that's going to be basically all of the fluids done. So that will be pretty convenient. And yeah, we're going to do the fuel. It should be able to fit in this spot, and then we can go up to the next floor with only solid ingredients and nitrogen gas, which doesn't count because I haven't even bothered bringing it down yet. But yeah, that will be on Wednesday. So thanks everyone for hanging out. Had a lot of fun. We are going to be doing Factorio tomorrow, which is going to be very exciting. We're starting a new playthrough, and with the Space Age DLC. So if you're interested in seeing me learn some new stuff in Factorio, then just make sure to stop by then. That'll be tomorrow from 2 to 5 Eastern Time, and then I might honestly switch Factorio to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Satisfactory to Tuesday, Thursday. I haven't decided on that, but I've been thinking about it for a while. So if I do that, it would be probably next week when that starts. So that could be a thing that happens, but we'll see. But anyways, thanks everyone for hanging out. Had a lot of fun today. And I will be doing Satisfactory on Wednesday if that's what you're here for. So I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time, playing various factory building games, so make sure to stop by then if you're interested. Follow if you haven't already, so you can see when I'm live. And that's about it. Thanks everyone for hanging out.